And now, by recording from New York, WBJC FM presents Inside Gene Shepard.
Tonight's thrilling episode is called The Mystery of the Carrot King. Or, is vitamin A an aphrodisiac, or is it myth? Stay tuned for the first act of tonight's mystery drama. I'm giving you an example of how it would be if I turned on the true Neanderthal shepherd and let it all hang out. I guess it'd be kind of interesting radio, actually. Stuff. Yes, see, unfortunately, all of our values are reversed now. We are rejecting all of Western civilization in the past 50 years. We've been doing this regularly, you know, and we're becoming more and more fascinated with Attila the Hun. And the primitive. Why this is so, I don't know. Of course, it's like the rise and fall of anything. I mean, you take the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. There was a certain time when, you know, they went for fairly decent statues. Then slowly but surely, the Pompeii crowd began to take over, and they turned to nothing but, what would be called today the porny world. And then eventually the mountain blew up, and that was the end of the whole ball game. How you like that thumbnail history, huh? See Napoli and die. Un morte. Gala. Yeah, I just got a call for those of you who are interested in how our passing world is going. It's going pretty good. I just got a call from the Washington Star here this afternoon, you know, the newspaper, and they heard me do a show on Slav art, and they wanted to know what Slav art is. I'm surprised with the Washington Star saying that. It's like Yogi Berra asking you, what's baseball? But he wanted to know what Slav art is. So I began to try to explain Slav art, and I think the best way to tell you what Slav art really is, since we live among a sea of it, Slav art, for example, is a Morocco-bound copy of TV Guide. Classic example. You know, you can buy a Morocco leather cover for your TV Guide. Did you know you can get that? And it says, makes a wonderful family heirloom. And you can have your family crest and your family name inscribed in gold leaf on it. And that is true Slav art. That's a double-edged Slav art. That's the I don't read nothing that makes me do more than move my lips type Slav. But by the way, did you hear the recent hoopla in a current college around this area, a local college? There was a great hoopla because the dean decided to have a test put through the college to decide who can read and who can write. And they picketed the dean's office. And they said, it's unfair discrimination. I might add, that's one of the greatest examples of unconscious humor. I've heard in years. You don't mind if I practice discrimination here, do you? What's the matter with a guy going to college if you can't read, huh? What are you, some kind of a reactionary nut, huh? How about a little horn here? Very good. Very good. Now, that's an example of slob art. Right there. Well, there's a lot of things about slob art. For example, slob art could be illustrated in many ways. For example, a group of Princeton students all competing on the steps of Alexander Hall as to who can actually say the McDonald commercial. That's a classic example of you might say, intramural competitive slob art on a special sesame seed bun. And, hey, speaking of slob art, it's taken over. It really seriously is. For those of you who would like to know what is really happening in our world, this is the kind of stuff you're not going to get from the Times or from the New Yorker magazine. Even New York wouldn't have it. Do you know that there's a movement all over the country right now? It's going on. Very interesting movement. It's fascinating. How many of you have ever enjoyed university or college cafeteria food? No, I'm serious. I'm asking a question. Have you ever? Now, a lot of people never went, to college or to universities. They wouldn't know. But university food is, in general, I must say in general. Of course, there are certain exceptions. But the more elegant the school, usually, the worse the food. Of course, this is in keeping with, in a sense, the masochistic attitude of the upper classes, a matter of almost tradition. It's self-denial. It's abnegation. It's mortification of the flesh. You know all these terms, these phrases? They're all good theological phrases. Oh, well. Mortification of the flesh, that's kind of a good one. That's like squatting on a bed of nails and peering up at the sun to prove, you can squat on a bed of nails and look up at the sun. But nevertheless, that's called mortification of the flesh. Now, if you go higher up the intellectual scale, this becomes more of a operative necessity. It's a condition of life, and it's considered in certain circles very gauche, I suppose, to wear a jacket that is newer than 7, maybe 10 years old. In short, this is a kind of mortification. That's stylistic mortification, and so many a person in that group will will feel that he's doing something good for his soul by sitting down at the university, the cafeteria, and having a semi-melted Jell-O as as the high point of the week. That's the dessert, with a small canned grape on top of it. Why the grapes get in there, but they do. This is a kind of food that is enjoyed in those institutions. Another thing, too, that's enjoyed very much in those institutions is salmon croquettes. I have never discovered anyone who liked salmon croquettes, but I've discovered many who have eaten them. So this is also part of that mortification process. Salmon croquettes are very closely allied to chicken croquettes. Now, the chicken croquette is not properly appreciated unless a curious white glutinous paste-like material, which is also lukewarm and somewhat lumpy, is poured over it. That's that's chicken croquettes a la King, or a la Yale. It's a curious problem. I don't want to get into this, but for those of you who have gone to university at one time or another and have enjoyed the curious, almost reverse ecstasies of spending time in the cafeteria, this is a kind of a reverse ecstatic feeling. So you'll understand. I'll never forget the time I was present when I was going to school. I was present at an almost it almost broke out. It was an almost total mutiny that occurred in a college cafeteria, and it later became known as the hot dog incident. It was the incident of the hot dogs. Now, just like every other incident, of course, it's gone into myth and legend, and it's hard to tell where the truth is. But I was there, and even now I cannot countenance what I saw. However, I'll give you the brief outline. It began on a Monday. Monday was always a grim day in the cafeteria, and it was a grim day in many ways because many classes, for example, many exams were given on Mondays. And so there was a certain depressed quality, right for starters there. And on Monday, this particular night, we had what was called hot dogs with tomato sauce. That was the main entree, which meant that you got these hot dogs with this sort of kind of tomato stuff glop poured over. It was all right. It was just, the mashed potatoes and peas and the rest of it. But it was the hot dog. So everybody had the hot dogs. Fine. The next night, we got back in the line with our trays. And this time, we had hot dogs sliced down the middle, and they were roasted. But, sliced down the middle and kind of broiled hot dogs, and there was a little piece of cheese in the middle of each one. You've seen that with the melted cheese. Well, everybody says, hot dogs again? And the guy says, they're not just hot dogs. That's hot dog a la Romanoff or some damn thing like that. So we sat down and had the hot dogs. Wednesday night arrived. We all get in line again. And the word quickly filtered back down the line, for God's sakes, you won't believe it, it's hot dogs again. Well, it was. It was hot dogs, this time on a bun. Well, you'd think they would have started out with that. I mean, the natural place for a hot dog is a bun. But no good university ever starts out at a starting point. So we wound up with hot dogs on a bun. And it was Thursday when it hit the fan. Would you believe it or not that the entree on Thursday night was hot dogs cut up in little pieces, just chopped up in little pieces, and mixed with bacon. I'd never seen that before. I'm just telling you what it was. They fried bacon, and they cut up little pieces of hot dog, and they'd spoon it up, see? Well, it began with some guy way over in the other end of the cafeteria taking his hot dogs, little chunks of hot dogs, they were about an inch long, and he took them on the end of his fork, see? He'd stick one in his fork, and he'd flip his fork, and the hot dog would go up in the air and hit the ceiling. Well, that spread like wildfire. It spread like, we use that phrase, I haven't seen a wildfire spread in a long time. We don't have wildfires in this town, do we? I mean, that went out in the 1890s with O'Leary and the cow and all that. But it spread like, let's put it this way, it spread like cold sores at a sorority pajama party. It was fantastic. Immediately, I saw the first one go up like that. Within seconds, there were thousands of forks going doing, and thousands of pieces of hot dog were going up at the ceiling like that. And this lady with the white coat, there was a lady called the dietitian. There's always a lady called the dietitian. She had this silver hair with a sort of blue tint in it and rimless glasses. And she was running around back of the counter. We had this hot plate. She was running around back of the counter, and she was, she was going to stop. Look at that. You know what you're doing to the ceiling. And people just started, of course, that just poured oil out right on the fire, you know. It did not stop it. It's, if anything, it encouraged the crowd. And girls were doing it. People were doing it. I even saw 2 faculty advisors flipping hot dogs. They were supposed to be proctors. Well, within 5 minutes, the campus police had arrived. And they were herding the whole crowd out, and everybody was covered with hot dog juice. and I don't want to go into this. They wound up with 2 guys getting arrested, and you know the campus arrest, the kind of thing. And there was an editorial, a thundering editorial in the newspaper, demanding a public apology from the students that were involved in that terrible issue. And of course, it went down in legend as the hot dog incident. It almost like Captain Queeg, you know, Captain Queeg and the incident of the strawberries. Or was that Queeg? Yes, Captain Queeg. And I keep confusing Queeg with, it was Queeg. It was Queeg. Yeah. Queeg's friend was Mr. Roberts, correct? No, that's right. That's another story. But they had the same character. Both of them, there were 2 characters exactly alike. I'll ask you a question. What was Mr. Roberts' enemy? What was his name? Come on now. Huh? No, you're thinking of Ensign Pulver. That's another guy. That's not him. Captain Queeg. See, you guys are dumb. And remember, who was the one that stood around and he constantly had these ball bearings? He had 2 silver steel ball bearings. He kept rattling them back. Who was that? That was Queeg. All right. Which was the one that had the palm tree? And, huh? No, it was not James Cagney. James Cagney was George M. Cohan. See how our history's getting all confused? Who was that? What was the name of that captain? Come on, you guys. What a bunch of dummerheads. Yeah, Dumkopf, right? Listen, I can put him onto a guy that's trying to teach a lizard. Well, that's another story. You don't want to hear about it. It's a sickening thing, bad news. He wants to use it as a gopher catcher, but nevertheless, we'd like to you know that in certain societies, lizards are used as hunting animals. Did you know that? Why do I know all this stuff? And then you people don't seem to know a damn thing. What is it? No matter what I say, you all look dumb and nod your head. No, I never do that. I'd like to find out what you really do know. Do you guys have any trouble catching buses and things like that? I mean, do you know how to work the slots and the machines and things, do you? Do you have an opposing thumb? I mean, just like person? See? Well, all right, what I was going to say is that they had this lizard, this is in the Far East, as you can guess, that they take a lizard, a large lizard, and this lizard is trained to go down into, like, say, a rabbit hole or something, and this is a pretty tough lizard. And he's got a string on him, or some kind of a thread, see, and they sick him on this hole, and down he goes, see, and the minute he gets down into this hole, of course, what happens is that there's a little animal squatting down there like they do in the hole, and down comes the lizard. Lizard makes a bad face, or whatever it is a lizard does when he gets in the hole, and the animal says, "Oh my God, I got to get out," and he runs up, and out the hole he goes, and then you whap him one. And then you just keep repeating that over and over again, and that's the way you live. Hell of a sickening way to live, but that's what they do. Now, you didn't know about lizards trained to do that? You know about the diving birds that do the fishing, don't you? You do. Okay. You want to hear some other sad tales like that? You want to hear about the Sumatran owl catchers? You do? Well, not really much. I'm getting very little enthusiasm over that, so we'll let that one set there. That's one of Sherlock's more exciting experiments. Sherlock, you remember Sherlock, don't you? Sherlock Holmes, he was always doing things like the case of the Sumatran owl. What was that case? Well, oh, speaking of cases now, you said a case of it wasn't the Sumatran owl. It was a great mysterious case, one of the most mysterious cases of all the Sherlock Holmes cases. In fact, so mysterious that Dr. Watson, in his journal, said that he did not believe that the world at large was yet ready to hear of this gruesome and eerie case. The case of the Sumatran what? And there was one other case, several other cases, but one particular case was also alluded to several times, which was never reported. The case of the aluminum what? Why do I know these things? What was the name of Captain Queeg's ship? Huh? All right. What was the name, then, of Mr. Roberts' ship? There you go. I got you again. What was the name of his ship? And you still don't remember the name of his captain. And what was the name of his ship? And another question, what were some of the ports that they sailed to? Which was an important part of the story. Where did they go? Another question I will ask you, what was their cargo? So, you know, there's no argument. This is all part and parcel of the general lack of knowledge that I'm faced with daily. So I'm not going to push you any further on that. What was the name of the lawyer in Captain Queeg's case? The lawyer. There was a lawyer who was an officer aboard the ship. Actually, he wasn't a lawyer. He was a writer. I'm sorry. He was a writer. What was the name of the writer? He was a writer, an intellectual type writer. He thought he was, and he was a novelist, and he was aboard the ship. What was his name? What was the name of the lawyer who later came in and defended Captain Queeg at the court of inquiry? What was the name of that guy? And don't come and say to me it was Jose Ferrar. It was played by Jose Ferrar. What was his name? Now this is all true trivia, you guys, and you're just absolutely booting it all over the place. You keep thinking you know trivia because you remember Howdy Doody, but there's much more interesting trivia around than that. And so you don't remember the name of the ship that poor old Mr. Roberts sailed on. All right, I'll ask you another question. Who wrote the novel, that interesting novel, actually a collection of short kind of anecdotes, and it was a novel. Who wrote the novel that starred Mr. Roberts? Well, all right. Who wrote the novel that starred Mr. Queeg or Captain Queeg? Who wrote this? He's still a very famous writer. In fact, he had a bestseller last year. See, I'll tell you, it's all falling apart. Everywhere you look, it's all falling apart. Yeah, when are they going to start charging women alimony then? No, that's going to come. It definitely will. Oh, yeah, sure, it's got to come because, you know, I remember back in the 50s when, the 60s, remember this whole bunch of people who married where the husband stayed home and took care of the house? And he dusted and did all these things. And it was fine, you know, and the wife went out and got a job at BBD&O and did her thing there. Well, what happens then after, 9 years of this when Stanley's at home doing the dusting and he's making the meatloaves and he's doing all those nice little things. And then one day, Agatha, calls him up on the phone, says, I'm not coming home tonight, Stanley. He said, what do you mean? What do you mean? She says, I've been, I just tell you, there is somebody else. He says, what? Oh, no. And of course, then the whole thing hits the fan, and she takes off with a guy named Ronald, or maybe somebody named Louise. That could happen too. So she takes off, and there he is. He's left at home, and she's been the breadwinner for 9 years. And what does he do? I mean, he's forgotten how to type. He doesn't know how to do anything anymore. His head is atrophied and all that stuff. Then what do you do? Well, I say that the very shortly, the whole it's got to come. It really has. It's got to come. There's going to be a tremendous new industry called "Get Her for All She's Worth." Yeah. Oh yeah. And there'll be you'll see spates of husbands in courts crying, and there'll be a lawyer standing next to him with the shades on. Says, yeah, we don't want to have her in alimony jail for 4 years like that, but she's just going to have to learn. She's going to have to pay. That's right. She's going to have to pay through the nose. And of course, then there'll be articles about who are the new inhabitants of Alimony Row. There's going to be a whole line of these, very sharp-faced, angry-looking ladies sitting in cells. What's got to come? I mean, I'm serious. If you want equal rights, you're also going to have equal trouble. And I'm for that. I say that we're all in this together. And believe me, I'm not anti-equal rights. I'm for equal rights, and that means everything. Of course, most people don't want, really, in the ultimate sense, they don't want equal rights. They want equal goodies, and that's a different ball game. But I can see the day. I really can. I can see the day when on page 3 of the Mirror, it says bereft husband breaks down in court. The judge excoriates wife and lays $1,000 a week support on her. Oh yeah, it's got to happen. He gives the husband the house. He gets the house, the whole bit, and she says, I had to do anything to get rid of him. I'll pay. But that's the way it's got to go. It's going to happen. And then, of course, there'll be a whole series of new soap operas based on that. I don't think that the networks are aware of the great social revolutions that have occurred in America in the last 15 years. That they're going to have to produce a soap opera that is directed entirely to stay-at-home husbands, and where the hero or the heroine, depending on how you view it, of the piece is a husband at home who is always bidding his wife goodbye at the door, and she goes off to the city. They call it going to the city, and she leaves to go to the city. She has this glamorous job in the city, and he's back there at home, suffering all the tortures of the old-fashioned soap opera heroine, rather. And of course, that'll bring up a whole new genre too. You remember Mary Marlin? What was it? Mary Noble, Backstage Wife. It could be called a Stanley Bullard, Backstage Husband, proving conclusively that a simple husband from a little Midwestern town married to Madison Avenue's most glamorous copywriter can achieve. I'm sorry. You like the way the mind is working here tonight, right? Oh, I meant to tell you what's happening in schools, didn't I? You remember all that stuff of the 6-7 years ago when I started the show? I was telling you all about the college cafeterias. Well, do you know that all over the country now, that the college cafeterias are being replaced by on-campus McDonald's? Yeah, that's right. And Burger Kings. The slob is in the saddle and riding high. That's right. I'm telling you the truth. Cornell's, there's a note that came out that says McDonald's, the popular franchise, so forth. All around the country, various universities now are putting it in Burger King, and you can go in there and say 2 all-beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. If you can go in and say that, you get a free hamburger. You know that. Yes, if you can say that quickly, you have to say it at the right time. Hold the pickles, hold the lettuce. Special orders won't upset us. Who does that? Right, Burger King. Now, that's the first thing you've known all night, Al, and that tells a lot about your mind. You didn't know anything about American literature. You did not know anything about the owls of Sumatra, but you sure as hell know about Burger King. And that's right. Hold the lettuce, hold the pickles. Special orders won't upset us. Well, guys are always giving those girls a hard time. I went into a Burger King the other night, and a guy ahead of me, there's always a smart type. This girl was tired. She was obviously covered with ketchup, and she's been working like hell. 5 million clunks have come through there, see. And this guy ahead of me in a line, he says, hey, how come you don't sing, huh? I thought she was going to hit him in the mouth with a mustard thing, He said, come on, sing. Hold the pickles, hold the... And how many times they must get that, Oh, man. Well, of course, there's a great gulf between the world of the television commercial and the world of walking around people. But it's not so great as to not occasionally overlap. Because I told you about just the other day out on Route 3, I drop into this diner, and there, for God's sakes, is this girl behind the counter at the diner comparing she was comparing paper towels to truck drivers. Yeah, she was talking about the quicker picker-upper, and I says, oh, come on, I can't take this. And I just left. Oh, yeah, it's like the other day I saw this crowd getting chased around a Mercury parking lot, the Mercury dealer, by this mountain lion was just raising holy hell in there. So, you just, where does it ever end? It never stops. I was at a friend's house the other day, and I went up to the John there, and here was this little guy in a rubber rowboat rowing around in the blue water. I got the hell out. So, if it's not happening at your house, that may be just because you have a sad, poor, dull house. That's all. You remember the guy that used to open up the medicine case, and there was somebody else on the other side of it? Who was that? No, I don't care who the guy was. I mean, what product were they selling? That's right. That's right. Well, you're smart. You know some things, don't you? Yes, sir.